From the Oklahoman Newsroom, this is a Varsity Update. I'm Jenny Carlson. The top 10 games of the week are out, and Scott Wright joins us on the phone to talk about these great games. Scott, you guys went with Bartlesville at Tulsa, Washington as your top game of the week. Why?
It's 1 versus 2 in Class 6A Division II. It's a big game. Bartlesville has been one of the surprise teams this year. Kind of came out of nowhere a little bit. Everybody knew that they had a lot of talent. It was just a question of whether or not they'd be able to put it together. They have so far 6-0 and 3-0 in their district, trying to make a run at potentially a state title, and they've moved themselves up to number 2 in the rankings this week. And now they get to take on number 1 Tulsa, Washington. Oddly enough, a Friday game on fall break week when just about everybody is playing on Thursday. And in fact, our top 2 games are both Friday night games. So you've got a couple of good options on a slow Friday night with Ardmore at Lawton MacArthur down in the southwest part of the state on a Friday night as well. Big game in Class 5A there.
You know, Scott, we talked last week heading into week 6 that after 5 weeks, you don't always have a ton of undefeated teams, and you guys had several games matching undefeateds, and then lo and behold, in week 7, after 6 weeks of games, your first 4 games this week and the top 10 games of the week involve undefeateds playing undefeateds. That's some pretty high caliber football right there.
It really is. By this point in the season, to get a lineup like we've got this week is pretty great. Cushing at Heritage Hall, a rematch of a state championship game from last year. In a typical week 7, you would expect that to be far and away the best game of the week. But it comes in at number 3, and Hilldale at Victory Christian, 2 teams that have been cruising along so far, and both get their first really big test against each other. So and then down it got buried kind of at the bottom of the list because it's an 8-man game. But Deer Creek Lamont at Coyle is a big game there in Class C as well. 2 top 5 teams there. So a big one in the 8-man ranks as well.
Well, and you look too, Scott, the fact that there's some really intriguing matchups, even down, as you mentioned, there's that undefeated game at 10, but then you've got, some traditional names like Ada goes to Tuttle, your number 8 game there. Carl Albert McGinnis, your number 6 game. There's some really intriguing matchups this week. People, if you could be in multiple places, there's just a lot of good football happening in this week 7.
Yeah, absolutely. That Ada Tuttle game is one that I think is kind of sneaky good. It's Ada's got a couple of losses and they've been kind of under the radar right now, but both their losses are to 5A teams. They're traditional power with a new coach in Wade Stanley, who had a lot of success at Norman North before moving down there. Tuttle has been on a great roll this season, coming off a big win over Hera, 28-27 last Friday. I think that one has a chance to be just a classic shootout out there, and a really fun game to watch if you're looking to find some smaller class games to get outside the metro area and go watch. That would be the top of my list right there.
All right, great stuff. And as Scott mentioned earlier, Thursday night, most games this week because fall break happening throughout the state, so be sure to double check your schedule. Make sure you know where your favorite team and favorite games are this week. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.